Opening my tea party just for you. Who is that? It's Ririna, the so-called anime enthusiast fox. It's time to react to more Goddess of Victory NIKKE Part 2. So let's get started already. Dilemma. I heard a lot of people were looking forward to me reacting to this one. So let's listen to it. You know, I said in the previous video, oh, it's vocals. Getting used to the pain. It seems like she's blaming herself for something. Oof, that beat right there, drop. This portion in particular, with the whole snapping of the fingers and the lack of strings, aside from the piano, obviously, it kind of has that vibe of flashbacks. Especially, oh, now you're starting to hear more of the strings in the back. It's very quiet though in comparison to the beginning. And the strings are starting to get louder. So we're starting to move into the present time. And I like how the piano is the thing that's consistent throughout and is the constant throughout the whole song so far. While the vocals is very, very not the focus of the song. Until now, I guess. But even so, it's not as apparent and as loud as some other vocal songs. I'm not sure who this NIKKE is, but clearly they are regretting something. And here we have it again, the whole flashback memory type of vibe with the snapping of the fingers, the lack of the strings. There's like a lack of multiple layers of instruments here. And the whole that sound in particular really reminds me of like a record or some kind of like tape. Like those really old radio tapes kind of thing, or videotapes. And because of the melody that goes dun dun dun, that part, it feels like almost like droplets of something. So let me actually listen to it again. Okay, so I was trying to focus on what they were saying, you know, vocally, mostly because it's kind of hard to hear. First of all, I think it's a little bit louder later in the song, but in the beginning, it's extremely hard to hear, mostly because there's like this effect on the voice. So it feels more like you're listening to like a really old song where the instruments are way louder than the vocals, so it's very hard to hear what they're saying. But from the words that I did grasp, clearly this NIKKE is in a lot of pain probably mental anguish or emotional anguish or even both. And in the beginning, it was really difficult for them, obviously, to, I guess, move forward with their life. But then at the point that they're currently in, I assume it's like the present time, let's just assume that's the case, then this Nikke in particular has gotten used to the pain. Even though they're aware that it's still painful, they're at least able to move forward. Doesn't mean that they no longer can feel it or something along those lines. It's more along the lines of they're either ignoring the pain that they're experiencing and the regrets and whatever happened in the past, but they clearly have like this no longer a dilemma inside of them because they have moved forward in their life despite the pain. But let's keep going and listen more to the vocals because it's a little hard to hear and I'm not really sure who this Nikke is in particular, so I just need to pull out the smaller details that I can actually pick up and guess what it could be. Oh, there we go. Now I've only got myself to blame. So clearly whatever happened to them, they believe, whether it's true or not, that they're the cause of whatever suffering that's going on. Whether it's inside of them, you know, mental anguish, as I said, or the people around them that they know or have failed. Okay, so if I heard it correctly, like I said, I'm not really, it's kind of hard for me to hear. One, because I don't know why English is difficult for me to pick up sometimes compared to like Japanese and Korean, but also the volume is too much. It's like the same as the background at times. So it's difficult to grasp what they're saying, but assuming what I heard was correct, is that people have been perhaps telling this character, this Nikke, that it's not their fault entirely, but then to this person, they're so consumed by their guilt and by their anguish and pain that they just can't accept what people are saying. And to them, the truth of the matter is that it's their fault. Or at least that's what they want to believe and are continuing to believe regardless of what other people are saying to this Nikke. And that's why they keep falling down and down and down, perhaps into the darkness of their mind and no longer being able to see that light that they might have saw when they were younger and had more of an innocent view of the world around them. So I want to skip a little bit more towards the vocals section. I think we're getting close. So if I heard the beginning part correctly, I'm not sure if I did hear it correctly, but I'm gonna assume that what I heard was correct, is that they were never this way from the beginning, which makes sense because what kind of person would, especially like the moment they're born, it's not like they know that they were born this way or that they, you know, caused pain everywhere. That's something that they would only know or assume to know when the people around them say such things, or if they themselves come to that conclusion based on the things around them and that has happened to them. But yeah, obviously in the beginning they wouldn't be this way, but clearly whatever happened has truly changed them, whether it's when they were transformed into Nikke, at least based on what I kind of remember from what you guys have told me. Like I said, I have a bad memory, so apologies if I sometimes forget about things. But from my understanding, it could be that whatever changed them into a Nikke, or the process to becoming a Nikke, or when they were a Nikke starting out and whatever their first mission is, or at least from the start of their Nikke life. Perhaps that's what has permanently changed them as to who they are today. And that's why in between the times when they're having the vocals, you don't have any vocals. You have like a good chunk in the middle and near the end where there are no vocals, but they have that flashback type of vibe and sound quality where it's like a tape, like a videotape, like the old videotape that you would stick into the TV and play some videos. I don't know how old everyone is, but I remember using that when I was way younger. But it kind of reminds me of that, but also the lack of strings and the focus of the beat, the snapping of the fingers, the piano is very, what's the word? It creates like an empty space where it feels like the character is reflecting the past, but also it reflects, because there's not as many layers, it feels like we're seeing and experiencing the innocent times before this Nikke experienced pain and mental anguish and whatever else it is that they're talking about. That's pretty much my guesses and pre-analysis, I guess, of the song, because obviously I haven't played the game, so I don't know if I'm wrong. I could be wrong for all I know, which is great because obviously if I do play it, then it'll be a pleasant surprise to see what the actual meanings and details of the song are about. And if I get anything correct, then cool. That's always fun, isn't it? So let's go to the next one. Let me go to the end here. So this next one is gonna be fun. There's a bigger focus on the vocals with this song that has like that echo, which creates a more ethereal, holy vibe to the song. And I wonder if it's because it's very focused on the pilgrim Nikkes, from my understanding. In some ways, I assume, and this is my assumption, I'm not really sure, I wonder if pilgrim Nikkes are considered legends to the current Nikkes, which is why they have more of this holy knights type of, paladin type of, goddess type of vibe with both their Trailblazers PVs and also with their music. Or perhaps the better term is that they have a much higher purpose than a typical Nikke might have due to their origins of being pilgrim Nikkes. But this fast beat makes me wonder if this song was actually played during a very intense scene where things are going from tragic to hope, or the opposite, because it could be one or the other. But perhaps at this moment there's a lot of hope, because it's, I think this is in the major key, but I'm not entirely sure. Musicians, you guys can confirm. It's been a while for me. But the way that they end each line with a high note makes me assume that it's tragic to a hopeful scene. Or perhaps it means that the pilgrim Nikkes, not only do they have a higher purpose, but they also represent hope of humanity, of the future. And they continue to go down their path unwaveringly regardless of how much pain and suffering they go through. Oh. Oh. Oh, wow. Alright, let me stop this. At the end there was like this like big boom, and then it like... let me go back to it. Right here. The beat, that drop right there, really changed things for me, because in the beginning they were like a paladin, someone with a higher purpose, someone who will unwaveringly go towards their path, their goal, and this particular group in particular, I assume. But then there's like this interesting part. Let me go it again. And I'm not sure if I'm correct here. I would need musicians and composers to confirm what I'm saying, if it's right or not. But I think I'm hearing a minor key at this part, especially when, or at the very least, they're using sharps or flats in this particular part. That's a little different from the usual melody throughout. So it like creates this sense of anxiety, perhaps, this discomfort at the end, even though throughout the whole majority of the song you feel very strong and you feel like, oh, everything's going to be okay, there's hope, there is nothing to fear, this group of pilgrim Nikkes are going to do what they need to do. But then there was this odd empty blank space near the end where there's like a climax to this huge beat drop, and then that happens, the really quiet pianissimo, maybe not that, but like a very quiet melody that's not exactly the same as before, or maybe it is, I just can't tell because the vocals are quite apparent but also very echoey, so it's very hard to tell what they're saying. But it's very empty in comparison. And there's like a sense of anxiety, uncertainty, and a little bit of fear, perhaps, that maybe things aren't going to be okay before it starts to climb up again into what was the normal song throughout. So I'm not sure how correct I am or how wrong I am. I would like confirmations, like I said, from musicians, from players, and from I already said that, from composers. About whether that is the case or not. So please let me know down below, because I would love to hear your thoughts about this. Obviously, those with context are more likely to understand the purpose behind the details of the song compared to someone who has not played the game. But I assume musicians too would have a better understanding of where these shifts happen, and even composers of where these shifts happen, and so forth. So it clearly means that the legend ended with this group of pilgrim Nikkes, and once again there was perhaps despair because they most likely failed at what they were supposed to do. That's my assumption based on the trailers and PVs that I remember and what I've been told in the comments, along with what I'm listening to now. That's kind of what I'm getting. But then at the end, there was like this slow climb again. So it does make me wonder if it means that there's going to be like a rebirth of hope, whether it's through these pilgrim Nikkes or through the other Nikkes that are in this game. And that's why there's like a build-up at the very end, that there will be hope once again. It's just at this point in time, there isn't. That's just my opinion though. So let's continue. ACPU Freeze. This one's a fun one. This has a very playful tone. Wait, hit you with Kleenexes? Just from the instruments I'm hearing, I think it's brass instruments. Very jazzy kind of feeling. This group might be one that's very carefree and quirky. They have like a very strong individuality as a group compared to other characters, where they don't really care about the rules as much. They go at their own pace. At least that's the feeling that I'm kind of getting from the music itself. I mean, even with the laughter right there. And they have like this, like you know the sound effect that people use to showcase that it's an alien? If you never talk, I'll never leave you? They hit you with Kleenexes is too hilarious. Yeah, they definitely seem like the group that don't really care. They just do their own thing to get what they want and need. They're like the super chaotic group who makes their own rules on what they want to do and how to get things done. Which is funny because this clearly says that they're police on their little armband. But that alien sound that I've been telling you about, or that I mentioned earlier, really emphasizes how strange they might be or how quirky they are compared to other Nikkes, perhaps. Or how fun they might be. Or perhaps the more accurate term is that they have very unique personalities that stand out compared to most. There's not really much else I have to say there because it's kind of hard to understand what they're saying. Ooh, boss song, huh? And it's the second phase. Wait, was that her earlier? That was her, right? Wow. Okay, so I do remember that Nikkes are able to become those rapture boss monster things. That's scary. Okay, so this is one who believes that they are basically essentially a god. They're someone who truly believes they're a ruler and everyone else needs to follow their order. You know, that instrument that they're using, I think it's a wind instrument. I'm not sure exactly which it is. But assuming it's about that woman, the tanned woman, But there was like a wind instrument that they were using, which really reminds me of those old shows whenever they show Egypt. They always use that specific audio, BGM. It kind of reminds me of that for some reason. Yeah, I hear it right now. If you know what instrument they're using, please let me know down below. But it makes me wonder if this particular person is someone ancient or if this was from an ancient time or way before or earlier than what they show in the game present time. As in, it's not main story timeline, but something from the past. Or if it is in main story timeline, then this particular boss may be someone from the old days or someone who is sealed. But again, I'm not sure. That's pretty much all I have to say for this one, so I'm not gonna pause it. But that was fun. Mere container boss. Ooh, strings, beautiful. Oh, those drums. Wow. This must be a very intense one. Oh, I love the sound of the violin, and when it's combined with the drums along with the choir, it just sounds gorgeous. So beautiful. Oh, now it's with guitar. You know, I feel like more songs should continue using strings, winds, the whole orchestra, in addition to drums and guitar and everything, and choir. It just sounds so epic. I like how they don't use the guitar until that high note of every part. So it builds more tension inside of you and it makes you more hyped because of that extra layering, that punch in each part of the melody. And then when it needs to be slower, they remove the guitar entirely until there needs to be a build-up like right now. And then adding in vocals, ooh, that's good, that's good. The only problem is I don't know what they're saying except for when they say afterglow. And it's probably because they're using a lot of, what was it called? I'm having a huge brain fart. But you know that technique that they use to make sure that the voice is on key? I can't remember it for some reason. I usually do know it. But I feel like they're using a lot of that to bring more emphasis that this rapture, this boss monster is a mechanical creature or being. And perhaps that's why it's harder to hear, because you don't know exactly what the boss is thinking and saying. So there's more of this, oh, what was that name? It's bothering me. And I think perhaps this moment is when you get to breathe a little, but also feel this sense of fear that something bigger is coming. Perhaps it's one of their biggest attacks, or one of those attacks where they build up energy and then it takes a while before they reach the ultimate attack of destruction. And also, I do find it interesting that they're putting a shattering animation, so I do wonder if that's why they have like that, what is it called? What is it? Oh, circles. Circles. Oh, I still can't tell what you're saying. But it's getting faster here. The thing I was thinking about is the part of the instrument that makes that clanging noise. I forgot what it was called. I don't play drums, or I never played drums, so that was part of a string orchestra, not an actual full-on orchestra. So I don't remember what it's called for some reason. It's at the tip of my tongue. I wonder if that's why they keep implementing that. To mimic that effect of the cracking and blowing of the shards of glass. And the strings definitely bring about a more epic feel to the music, especially when the guitars are at the back and no longer at the front. And then now you have the strings gone and only the choir's there. So it makes you very anxious when you're listening to this particular part. Perhaps that's how people feel when they're playing this particular boss stage, or maybe not. Who knows? I wouldn't know. There's not much else I could say here, but I thought it was really good. That's pretty much all I can say now. Colorless. Oh, it seems like this is perhaps about a specific Nikke or group. Oh, this song is very much a coming of age type of song. Oh, now there's colors. Now it makes sense why they put that. Oh. It's even brighter and colorful. I like the fact that it's set in an empty school. But depending on how you look at it, it can be something beautiful or something very colorless and empty. I'm gonna explain more of my thoughts after the song finishes. Okay, good, we have a little bit more. Okay, so I do want to talk more about the first the visuals, and then we'll talk about the lyrics, and then the actual background music for the vocals. First of all, it's interesting how it's clearly a coming of age song where someone realizes that life is not what they thought it would be when they were younger, and obviously that's something anyone can relate to, where people become jaded about working or about their friends, about life, about the world around them. That's just inevitable as you get older. And so clearly this character, this Nikke, is starting to feel the same way, where everything's starting to look colorless, even though they know that things shouldn't be like that. Like, it's not usually like that. And so the fact that they have to deal with this and remember things that way obviously causes them to be a little bit bitter. But it's interesting that from the visual perspective, when you look at it, it looks very empty, very, like, you know it's bright and it's supposed to be colorful, but you just kind of feel, I don't like this kind of thing, where all you see is sepia tones and black and white and grays. I don't know if anyone has, for example, lost their ability to taste some things, to smell things, or some part of their bodily functions. You start to realize that everything that you have, even if most people consider it normal to have, is something that's required to really feel the world and experience the world at its fullest. Not that I'm saying that those with disabilities or temporary loss of functionalities are not experiencing the world. It's just that it's not going to be the same as what you might experience. Instead, some of their other functionalities of their body might be a lot more enhanced than a typical person. But for a typical person, you don't really notice this, that how important each functionality of your body is until you actually lose it. So here, and even with, for example, if you lose your ability to move your facial muscles, you'll be surprised by how much it can affect your mood and your emotions and your thoughts just from that. And even for those who, for some, like for example, they caught a cold and so they can't smell anything, you start to realize that food doesn't taste as good without the ability to smell, because I don't remember the exact percentage, I think it's 80%, but 80% of your smell is what affects the flavor of the food. If you can't smell it, then you can't really taste it as much. Sure, you have taste buds, but your nose is what makes your brain go, oh my gosh, this tastes delicious and smells so good because it's so tasty, and something along those lines. So obviously, when you look at this, there's like barely any color, so you start to feel something similar to that. You start to feel depressed, feel like you don't have any hope, and all of that. And so clearly it's starting with that. But as the song goes by, here, look, you start to see colors again. And when you start to see colors, you start to feel a little better, like, oh yes, this is exactly what it's supposed to be like. You start to remember that life is something that you can live for, that it's not something to forget. You can't just be beaten down by the world around you and forget about that kind of thing. So as you continue to get more and more colors, it means that they're starting to understand that good things in life even as you get older. Sure, it might not be the same thing as you were when you're younger, but it doesn't mean that it's gone. It's just there's other complex layers to the world around you. And that's also why they said if you have something you want to go for, then go for it. Nothing will stop you except for you yourself, and people might try to stop you, but in reality, if you have determined that you want to do something, then nothing can stop you except for yourself and maybe your circumstances. But in the end, you yourself are the first initiator, I suppose. Like, it's hard to take that first step kind of thing. And that's also the case here with if you continue to believe that the world around you is colorless with no hope and is despair, filled with despair and nothing else, even though back when you were younger, you're hopeful, then you will continue to look at life like that. It's not going to change unless you yourself change your perspective on your own. So that's kind of the feeling that I'm getting from this particular song. And this NIKKE clearly knows that the world isn't so colorless, which is why as time goes by, with the help of their friends and with the people who care about her, she goes for her dreams and starts seeing the world in the way that she did when she was younger, but obviously with a bit more complexity in how she views the world. Sure, it might not be as simple as it was back then when she was younger, but now, even if she's as old as she is right now, the world hasn't changed. It's just that her perspective has changed. And as long as she continues to move forward with her dreams and with her friends, then perhaps then she'll be able to reach her dreams as far of this, or not as far, but as high as the stars, which is why they added in this beautiful image of the starry sky with, falling stars, and it's beautiful. And even at the end, we see a completely beautifully colored image of the three. So clearly, as long as you have friends, people who support you, but even if you're by yourself, you can go for the things you want if you put your mind into it, is kind of the feeling that I'm getting from this particular song. Sure, it might be focused on this particular NIKKE, but I feel like it would be a good song for anyone to listen to and to see the lyrics to. But that's just visually. From the actual... So in the beginning, I was a little bit confused. I mean, not really. I knew that it's just probably something that'll repeat throughout the song, but the lyrics in the beginning sounded a bit too hopeful. So when they then continue with the we grew older part, that's when I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Now I see where they're going with this. But the first minute or so, I was like, this seems a little too hopeful for a song that's called Colorless. But now I understand it's just something that repeats throughout the song. It's just a common theme throughout it. But in reality, this is definitely a coming of age for this particular NIKKE, where it's their thoughts about how they view the world when they're getting older, and then the conclusion that they came to after having the support of their friends and going through different conflicts and periods of time where they're able to mature and grow. At least that's my assumption. I don't know how correct I am or how wrong I am, but that is just what I'm assuming from the song and the lyrics. And that's pretty much it. Also, the short thing I want to say for the background music for this song is that you can tell it's reminiscing. Mostly, one, because it's using piano, but it has that white noise in the background that makes you feel like you're watching something very old, like a cassette tape or a videotape. And it has that kind of sound. So you can clearly see that this NIKKE is remembering the past, which they like to do often, which makes sense because it's mostly about the NIKKEs themselves, their past, their present, their future, whatever it is, their goals, anything along those lines, or about the event even. So it makes sense that it's like that. In interestingly, they don't use that white noise after the beginning, most likely because she's telling the story rather than her thinking about it. Something that I noticed in a lot of songs is that they like to use that chime noise. I don't know if it's called a chime. It's probably called something else. I just can't remember at the top of my head. I don't know why I keep forgetting all these instrument names. It's been too long, I guess. But they like to use those in like songs that want to, I suppose, make the listener think of the past. Very nostalgic sounding. Like, ah, yes, this is how I felt too as I grew up. Or this is exactly what my thoughts are right now. And it just feels good, like hearing that little sounds that we just heard just earlier. It makes you feel good about the song. And so it gives you more hope. There's like a shift change whenever that happens. Yeah, there's this very simple layers. I think it's pretty much piano, drums, and then the occasional chime thingy, and vocals. That's pretty much it, I think. But because a small amount of layers in the song, it sounds beautiful and more nostalgic that way, because I think music, and I'm not really sure, I wasn't like a music history person or anything, but from my memory, a lot of the music that was popular back when I was like in middle school, perhaps, so like, I don't know, 15 years, 20 years, I don't know. Maybe when I was younger too. The music was a lot more, or it wasn't as complex. So that's also another thing that I feel like gives that nostalgic feel to a lot of people. Maybe not to those who were born recently, but to those who were born many years back or even a couple of years back, it feels very nostalgic. So that's pretty much all I have for this particular song. So we'll go more to this way and let it go to the next song. Redash the Red Hood. Aha, another song. So this is what you guys meant. Rusted? Does it mean that she's going to die or that she's becoming weaker? Oh, final battle. I really think that my rested parts most likely means that she's broken or she's sick. But then again, she's a mechanical being, so maybe not. Or maybe yes. Well, either way, her lifespan is probably short, whether it means as a fighter or as an actual her lifespan. So she's doing whatever she can to make her crusade a success, or her goals a success in this battle. I'm not really sure exactly what her goal is when I remember the previous song that was focused on her, but it's something that she desperately wants to complete. So for her squad, that squad that she's part of, that was basically her family or someone who she deeply cares about. So that's why this is even more important to her. There's not much I can say here, except for the fact that she's a very passionate person, considering the guitar and everything, the intensity of the song. Oh, wait. This is the title screen song, right? This is clearly just about the Nikkes in general, how they have a common goal to destroy the Raptures and give hope to humanity. I believe I talked about it more in the PVs and trailers video, so if you haven't watched that, you can go ahead and find it on my channel. But I'm sure most of you have already have watched it for the most part. The song in particular reminds me of one of those, I forgot the type of music that it's called. An anthem? It's very much an anthem, and I believe this particular song is an anthem for all the Nikkes, regardless of which CEO they're under or whether they're program Nikkes or not. Yeah, this is definitely an anthem. You know, it would make sense if it was, and that's why they have it as the title screen song. Because every player is uniting to fight against the Raptures and fighting with the Nikkes that they gather from the gacha. Beautiful. Wow. Can't believe that was the last song. I mean, it fits as the last song for this part 2 video. I just want to reiterate before I talk more about the OSTs that I reacted to in this video, but if you have videos that you would like me to react to, then please make sure to join my server and send me your playlist link. Hopefully they will be ones that aren't the same ones in this particular playlist, but yeah, I'll continue to react to NIKKE OST if you would like more from me, and make sure to give it a like, comment below, subscribe, and share. And now time for the actual discussion. Those are just the I need to say it and let everyone know before I move on to the actual crux of things. But so far I was I am still pleasantly surprised by what I experienced for Nikke, so I have pretty high expectations for this game. Oh, not just because the music's really good and not because their trailers and PVs are really good, but mostly because I feel like there's a lot of love and effort put into the game by the devs and the writing team in particular. And of course, the artist team is also very passionate about what they are creating as well. But more than anything, I feel like the things that stand out to me the most and whenever I encounter a gacha game is what the writing team does with the story and the world lore. And the fact that the devs and the videographers and those animating and creating the artwork and all of that clearly have a passion for the world that the writing team has created. Obviously, they all work together to create it and make the lore and the story and the characters to life. But I appreciate the way that they never forget about the fact that the story is the crux of the character's background and what goes on in that world, which is why everyone tends to, when they play the game, end up falling in love with the character and wanting to pull them and things like that. Or even being very emotionally invested in a story to the point that they would drop other games and play this one only. I don't know how many of you guys are like that, but typically for a casual player, that's what I would assume it would be like. I, for one, have a story addiction, so I can't really do that. I have to consume a ton of various stories, hence why I'm playing a ton of other games. But either way, the music was really good. I do hope that all of you are enjoying the details I point out, my pre-analysis of the songs and the music that I have listened to. Obviously, like I said, I haven't played the game yet, and I don't really have official knowledge of music, so the things I think about are important might not actually be important at the end, who knows? But either way, I hope you enjoyed my pre-analysis of the songs and music, and I look forward to finding out what details I got right and which ones I didn't. And if you would like to let me know if I got one of them pretty accurate or one of the other ones really wrong, then let me know down below. I'm curious about your thoughts. And if you, of course, want me to react to more Nikke music, then again, please make sure to join my server and link it there, because this particular platform likes to block it all. It's only a luck-based draw, perhaps, lottery, if it goes through as a comment. But in any case, I've enjoyed the various different genres that they've covered in this game for music. And obviously, some I was not really particularly, they weren't my type of, music, because obviously it's a personal preference. But I was able to appreciate the effort they put into the lyrics, for example, or even the different complexity of layers, and when they would put in specific moments of emptiness. I know I call it emptiness, but it's not really emptiness. It's just more, there's a lack of layers as the usual compared to the other parts of a song, which I appreciate because it brings about this reflectiveness, this tension, and things like that. And they clearly know what they're doing when they're creating the song and doing it on purpose, based on the story, the lore, and whatever else that they get when creating the music. So I look forward to seeing more, and I have really enjoyed every aspect of it. I can't wait to play the game on August 30th, so make sure to hit the, I think it was notify me button. It's scheduled on my channel already. After I finish playing, I guess, Nikke for the first time, I will be most likely play it on Twitch after, if I were to determine that it's a game that I really want to play on the long term, regardless of the walls that people have warned me about. Then it'll be like that. I'll let you guys know in the community post. Also, I know a lot of you have said that you want me to play it in English, but I will be going with the majority vote. So please, 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 please vote in the community poll. I'm gonna go with whatever is majority because I understand all the languages without the text, which means it's not really for me, it's for you guys. Like, I have no problem with playing it in Korean, in Japanese, in English. It doesn't matter to me. You guys, it's for you guys. Your comfort, not really mine because it doesn't really matter to me. I'm okay with either or and whatever it is. So if you want it in English, vote. If you want it in Japanese, vote. If you want it in Korean, vote, or at least try voting, even though it's like last place right now. But either way, vote. I will not be responding or even, I guess, I won't be responding and telling people that I'm going to be playing in English because, like I said, I'm going to be going with majority vote. So I will just keep telling you guys, vote. If you reply with a comment that says that, I'm going to just tell you to vote. There's nothing else. I mean, just know that if I do continue playing it, I will switch between languages on rotation, either for the entirety of the game that I play or at the very least in the first few streams, just because I am curious about what the languages sound like. But majority vote is what I will be playing with for the most part in any case. So like I said, if you want English, then vote, please. The poll doesn't end until the day before I start streaming, so you have plenty of time to change it because English and Japanese are almost tied. So keep voting. Anyways, my kids, what do you think of today's video? I have finally covered the second half of this playlist that someone was nice enough to share. Thank you for that again. So let's etch this into our memory and keep it safe. And as always, formally inviting you to my next tea party, the so-called anime enthusiast fox. Who's that? This was Ririna. So until the next one then, bye.